Hey guys, today I'm working on this push mower. It's not really a push mower because the handles are missing. This was just given to me as is. I have no idea if it runs, if it's locked up, or anything. So the first thing I'm going to do is put a zip tie around the blade brake so we can compress this and be able to pull the engine over. Once that's done, I'm probably going to remove the spark plug or remove the air filter and spray some ether into the intake and give the engine a pull and see if it will even attempt to start before we progress. It does have fuel in it, I believe. Actually no, it's empty. So that's a good sign. And the oil is actually it's pretty dirty. It will need an oil change. And then another quick check is make sure that the blade is still on, which it is. And the blade adapter is parallel with the blade, so it's not broken or slipped or anything. So let me get a zip tie around here and get some static fluid, spray it into the intake, and we'll see if it will attempt to start. I just put a zip tie around the engine brake right here. Some people call them blade brakes, engine brake, engine stop switch. So anyhow, there's a zip tie around here. The bail cable was no good, it was frozen, so that one's been disposed of already. The air filter is in pretty sad condition. The engine does pull over. Feels like it has compression too. So I'm going to spray some starting fluid into here. I'm going to try to do this on camera. See if we can get this to start. So that tells us our coil and spark plug are decent right now, and that we have a fuel delivery problem possibly. However, the gas tank is empty. So next step, I'm just curious. I'm gonna put some gasoline into the gas tank and see if it will stay running. If it does run, the best way to turn the mower off is to just cut this zip tie right here. So I'll be back once I put some gas in the gas tank. So I just added some gas. The primer does not work, and I was trying to use it with no gasoline being expelled through the emulsion tube. So we know that the primer needs to be addressed. Usually it's a bad gasket or this cover is warped. But let's give it a few pulls and see if it will start. I did use starting fluid again, obviously, to get it going with the primer being not working. So let's see if it will start and run on the gas. I got my zip tie cutters right here, just in case we need to start the engine. And the pull up needs to be addressed as well. Alrighty, so it's just running on starting fluid, so the carburetor needs to be addressed. Usually it's a clogged main jet. So let's take this apart and see how bad the carburetor is and see if it's worth fixing. Obviously it's going to need an oil change, new air filter, handles, and a bail cable. Usually when I sell mowers, these ones sell for around $35 to $55. So I should have most of the parts in stock to make it worth our time. Usually when I sell a mower, I'll take the blower housing off, check all the linkages, give it a good thorough inspection. I'll check the flywheel key too. I just want to make sure that if we do decide to sell it, it's going to be perfect for the next person. This one here was found on a curb. Just needed wheels, which I put on already. Cab rebuild, air filter, and now it fires right up. It ran great. Did the oil change. This one's going to be ready to sell. Let's get back to this one and see if we can make some money. Alright, so the mower is on my mower lift. I'm going to try to do some of this disassembly using one hand. Maybe if I sell this mower for a good price, well, I can buy a tripod for my phone so you guys can actually see me work. So these are usually just Phillips heads. Again, the camera work is going to be pretty poor because I'm using one hand for everything. Alrighty, for the fuel tank, all I do is loosen these 5/16 bolts, just free them and just peel the gas tank back. Let's see if I can do all this with one hand. If you've never done this before, just try to keep the bolts in some type of order so you remember which bolt goes where. I've done this so many times, you can probably with my eyes closed. So with these bolts removed, you can just peel this back just a little bit. It should be enough to get the whole blower housing off, which we are going to do because I want to check the flywheel key. To remove the air filter cover, 3 bolts. For some reason these are pretty darn tight. Okay, I'm going to come back in a second. I'm going to loosen those off with my ratchet and I'll be right back. Alrighty, I'm back. After loosening those with my ratchet. Don't want to damage my screw gun. So when these primers don't work, there's usually two issues. That could be why the primer isn't priming. These air filter housings, if the balls are too tight, these will warp. So when you depress the primer button and it shoots air out into the carburetor, if this is warped, the air doesn't go into the carburetor, it just shoots out to the side. Also, it could be a bad gasket, or the small hole where the air travels could also be clogged. Most of the times these gaskets will tear when you pull these off. This one is going to do the same thing. See? So it's going to need a gasket. With carburetors like this, you can buy them for like $15, and I've had some success with the cheap aftermarket ones. So if not comfortable in rebuilding a carburetor, just buy one of those cheap carburetors from like Amazon or whatever you feel the most comfortable using. eBay also has them. Just check the reviews first just to make sure that it's a good buy. A lot of times too, when you rebuild these carburetors, it's not worth the hassle. Sometimes you can clean up all the jets and stuff, and then it still won't run right. So today I'm going to try to rebuild this. Obviously I'm not going to be filming it because I don't want to get chemicals on my cell phone, which I'm using to film this, but I'll try to take breaks in between and show you guys how to get one of these apart. Super simple too, and all the linkages are nice and freed up already. To remove the carburetor, remove the fuel line. This feels pretty good. It's pretty soft still. There's no cracks or leaks or anything. So remove this hose clamp. If you have gas in the tank, you can use some vice grips and just crimp off the line. And there's two 3/8 bolts. Just remove those and the carburetor will come right off. So the carburetor is off the mower, and I removed the float ball. This bolt here is 1/2 inch, and it's also the main jet, and it's completely clogged. There should be two visible holes and one in the middle. The ball doesn't look very happy either. So I have spare float balls, but I'll try to clean this one up. And the main carburetor doesn't look too bad inside, but the float looks rather sad. So I'm going to take all this apart, clean it the best I can. I use these torch cleaning tools to clean the jets and passages in these carburetors. So I'm clean all this carburetor up, get all back together, and then I'll see if the mower will even attempt to start again. Like I said, usually I'll pull the blow housing off and check the flywheel key, but I want to make sure that the engine actually runs and isn't knocking or making any type of funky noises. And if it runs good, then we'll continue by pulling this off and getting more in depth with it, ready for it to be sold. Alright, so the carburetor is ready for reassembly. It's the main jet all nice and cleaned up, as you can tell. There's where the holes are. The float's cleaned up, the carburetor's cleaned up. Again, I use my torch cleaning tip tools to clean the passages out. And the ball is a lot cleaner. So I'm going to reassemble this. We'll put it on the mower and see how it runs. Sometimes these carburetors may take 1 or 2 attempts at cleaning them out. If the first attempt doesn't work and then the second attempt doesn't work, it makes it more easier and time effective just to replace the carburetor and even going through all this trouble to try to rebuild these. A lot of people too, when they rebuild them, they'll replace the ball gasket and then kneel and seat, but again, I'm not going to do that because this mower may not even run correctly anyhow. So we will reevaluate once the mower is somewhat back together and somewhat running. Alrighty, so the carburetor is back on. The surface where the air filter box mounts to the carburetor was cleaned off. New gasket. Let's see if the pram works. Yep, and it's now working. So I'm gonna put this back down on the floor and see if it runs. So before I tried to start this one, just had a customer drop off this one. We don't want it. So we have our handles and hopefully a bill cable that we can just transfer over from this deck to this one. So let's give this one a few more primes and see if it's going to start. If it starts and runs, I'm just going to go cut this off to stop it. Alright, let's see what it's going to do. So that's definitely a successful cab rebuild. Doesn't smoke, which is good. So we'll put it back onto my mower lift. We'll take the blower housing off, check the flywheel key, and then clean the deck, the engine block, lube the governor linkages and arms, and transfer those handles over. Alrighty, so the blower housing is removed. Just 4 3/8 bolts. 2 go here, 1 here, and just 1 down there. Obviously, dirt and debris needs to be taken care of before we pull this cup up to check the flywheel key. Usually when I sell a mower, I'll make sure all this is cleaned up. So it looks like new before we even remotely think about selling it. I usually pull the coil off too and clean the rust of the coil and any under magnets on the flywheel. I have a handle on it now and the working bill cable. We sacrifice those from that donation down there. I do have plenty of handles and cables in stock, but right now just quicker to use those ones from down there. So I'm going to get my shop vac, clean up the mess on here, move this cover, and then check the flywheel key. So I just vacuumed up some of the debris and dirt from down here. I'll give the mower just a quick vacuum. Obviously I'll work on making sure this is more cleaner. But most of these on a Briggs and Stratton engine, these bolts here are going to be 15/16. I have my electric impact right here. I do have air tools, but the compressor is kind of loud, so I'm just going to use this one right now. Alright, the final key. Looks perfect. So I'm gonna put this cover back on and torque this down to factory specs. And I'm gonna pull the coil off, just clean the rust of the coil, clean the flywheel with some sandpaper around the magnets if it needs it. Just clean up all this dirt around the engine block, and then whilst the coil is off, I'll pull the plug, clean the plug up, re-gapped it, and then I'll put it all back together. Once you replace the coil or remove it for whatever reason, the way I set the gap between the coil and the flywheel is just use a business card. This makes everything super easy. So it's almost back together. I cleaned around the engine block. I wiped down the blower housing and gas tank. I usually use simple green. And then the spark plug, I installed a new one. The old one, the electrode was pretty much worn out. And the last thing I do is I re-torque the cylinder head bolts. It should be 140 foot-pounds. And you'll be kind of surprised after a while how loose these head bolts become. And the last check for this mower is put some more gas in it, check for any fuel leaks, and then run it for around like 20 to 25 minutes, and then do the oil change, then clean and polish the deck, and then it should be good to be sold. I'll also check the blade too and sharpen and balance the blade. I'll probably do that off camera. But yep, next step is to put the new air filter in, the air box back together, and then clean the beauty cover, and then run it for a while and see what it is. Alrighty, so it's all cleaned up and ready to be sold. It runs. Just got to do the oil change on the mower. Another thing I did off camera was I removed the wheels, cleaned the axles, added grease. I did put like an hour of my time into this mower, plus a new plug and a new air filter and fresh oil. I like to sell items that are in really good condition. I offer a warranty too with any mowers that I do sell. I just want the people to be very happy with their purchases, so I like to go the extra mile, make sure that the mower is really well cleaned and functioning correctly. We also adjust the engine RPM also by using a digital tachometer that hooks up to your high tension lead right here from the coil, and I adjust the RPM until it says around 3000 RPM. That's what the spec is for this particular engine, and that's it. So hopefully it will sell soon.